Well, up yours, McLaren. You got exactly what you deserved. And guys, I was even rooting for Lando Norris to win the championship this year. But you know something? No one had his back. No one was there for him. Lando Norris was just not aggressive enough as well. And wow, wow, wow. Brilliant, brilliant. Well done to Max Verstappen and Christian Horner. Absolutely brilliant. I'm not even a fan of him, but I'll always put my hat in the ring and say, respect, brother. Respect, because that was awesome. And you know what? McLaren should be ashamed of themselves. Let's get into it.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move. He's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front from fifth all the way to the lead in lap one.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Walsh. Okay, lads, so let's look at it from both sides of the story here. We got Christian Horner, Red Bull. We've got, on the other hand, we've got Lando Norris, Zach Brown, and McLaren. Now, let's look at Christian Horner. I've even been saying throughout the year that he's an a-hole, Christian Horner, and I'm still sticking to it. But I have said as well that, you know something? Sometimes it's the a-hole you need. Christian Horner gets the job done. I've said this before, so I'm not just, I'm this and that. No, if you've seen my other videos, lads, I've said this loads of times. He's an a-hole. But I tell you, lads, they've had their problems this year. Adrian Newey, the genius behind the curtain, obviously he left. We've all seen this. He's gone to Aston Martin. And I tell you, lads, of all my racing experience for 13 years, I have never seen a team engineer, mechanic, someone part of a team, and then halfway through, three-quarters way through the year, leave the team and then actually be on TV with another team. Now, I've seen people leave teams, okay? It happens. But if you're going to go with a different team, especially when it comes to TV and contracts, you'll probably go in the background, behind the scenes. You'll have phone calls with your new boss, right? So Adrian Newey, Lawrence Stroll is the new boss in Aston Martin. So, you know, you could definitely see Adrian Newey having phone calls and talking about ideas for 2025 season, right? Of course. Goes without saying. Now, working on the car, I don't know. Depends on their contract. Who knows? We don't know. Now, chances are Adrian Newey is probably, because I wouldn't imagine that it would have been in his contract. But again, we don't know. But the point is this, lads. Huge problems. The fact that Adrian Newey went on TV in a season when he's contracted with Red Bull, there's a big problem. This place smells rotten, boys. Smells rotten in the state of Denmark, because it just doesn't happen. You don't go on TV. You stay in the background, behind the scenes. So, and then we've heard about Jos Verstappen, Max Verstappen's father. Apparently, there was problems with Jos Verstappen and Christian Horner over some girl, okay? Of course, we don't have the proof. We don't know. But, you know, what is admiring, you have to say, out of all their problems, whether it's true or not, we don't know whether it's true or not. Red Bull, Christian Horner, Red Bull had Max Verstappen's back, man. The bond in brotherhood. They stuck by him. They kept the focus. They gave everything to Verstappen. They wanted to clean up and win the championship and get it over and done with and relax as fast as they possibly could. Now, that is the way you do it. That's the focus. That's the team spirit. That's the bond in brotherhood. Christian Horner, he held the line. He didn't let doubt creep in, lads. He didn't lose faith in his driver. His team are the goddamn mission. They slowed down a bit, you know, and obviously they probably had a couple of speed wobbles, you'd say, right? But they didn't lose their focus. Then on the other hand, let's look at this jerk-off, Zach Brown at McLaren. I've been saying it for, oh God, I sound like a broken record. This guy has not had Lando Norris's back in any way, shape, or form. It's insane. He let an IndyCar driver jump into Lando Norris's car at Mexico, and Lando Norris was still in contention-ish for the championship. In other words, it wasn't over. There was still a chance. And what does Zach Brown do? He lets an IndyCar driver jump into Lando Norris's car at Mexico in practice one. Now, you don't do these type of things. And I'm telling you, even if you're under a rule, There's no goddamn way you're allowing some jerk off go into your boy's car, your special car, because no matter whether you're in karting, Formula 4, 3, 2 or Formula 1, everything's the exact same. If you've got a chance to win the championship, you put everything into winning the championship. I've been in that situation in racing where I was the guy that the team put their attention into because Peter's got a shot to win the championship here, lads. Let's get the championship done. Then you've got your teammate that hasn't been as quick as Peter, and then they're not going to give him the attention. Then it's been on the other hand, right? Whereas I've had a teammate was doing better for me for a few races, and then they decided to put their attention into him. It swings both way, lads. It swings both way for everyone at racing in some point in their life. Okay? It just does. It just does. And even me, even if I was in a team right now still, and I had my teammate doing better than I was, and if the team were still giving me the attention, I'd be laughing at the team and I'd have no respect for them, because you would automatically assume they're going to put their attention into the other guy because there's a better chance of winning the championship with him than Peter. There's no rocket science behind this. There's none. So back to Zak Brown. He puts an IndyCar driver into Lando Norris's car. The guy could have crashed the car, rode the car off. They might rode the car off so badly that they might not have got out for the Mexico Grand Prix at all. And that's the risk Zak Brown put in at this stage. The guy has not had his boys back. Now let's quickly, guys, go through a little bit of a background in this year already in 2024. And we won't go into too much detail because I'm sure all of you know it. But anyway, as we all know, Red Bull were dominating at the start of 2024 season. They were kicking ass. They built up a good lead, a great lead. And with 3, 4 almost races in hand, and they were sitting back nicely, right? Everything was going peachy. Then bang, explosion. Adrian Newey leads the team. There's rumors of a girl getting assaulted by Christian Horner. Lord knows if it's true or not, okay? And we're gonna say he's innocent unless proven guilty. All right? That's a fair thing to be doing now, in fairness. You can't just, you hear some stupid headline and, oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I knew it about Christian Horner. We can't even tell that. And, I'm not his biggest fan. I think he's an a-hole. But I love him as a team boss. And I'd still give him the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, we're kind of getting a bit off the beaten track here. And then, of course, we hear the rumors about Jos Verstappen not getting on with Christian Horner. Then Adrian Newey's gone. And, something obviously happened in the team here, lads. Some nuclear bomb went off. The fact that Adrian Newey disappears into the sunset halfway to 3/4 way through the season. So something did happen. We just don't know the full... We don't have the proof, the evidence of anything, all right? But anyway, so things go downhill for Red Bull. Things go uphill great for Peachy, for McLaren. All of a sudden, bang, they're on the pace. They're starting to win races. They've got Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris really kicking ass here. They're really doing well here. And they're in for a chance. Now, the problem was Oscar Piastri was too far behind in the points to have a shot at Max Verstappen. And here's the thing. Lando Norris was closer to him. And it was still, even with Lando Norris, it was still a real uphill battle because Max Verstappen, memory serves me, don't quote me exactly, but I think he had just over 3 races in hand over Lando Norris in second. So, if anything, your back's up against it, man. You're up against it. So what do? You put all your attention into him. At least you've got some chance to win the championship. But no. Here's where it all went south. Really went south before the IndyCar driver got into Lando Norris's car. For 3 races, Zak Brown, and I'm going to say the word allowed, Oscar Piastri to finish ahead of Lando Norris. Finish ahead of him. Now, as memory serves me, don't quote me, I might be off about 3 or 4 points either way here, right? So I'm pretty close. But as far as I remember, those 3 races that Oscar Piastri finished ahead of Lando Norris, if you sum up the points that Lando Norris lost out to in those 3 races, would have been roughly 25 points. Okay? In other words, a race win. That's the amount you get for a race win. Now, what do I mean by this? In other words, if Lando Norris actually finished ahead of Oscar Piastri, so in other words, if they actually told Piastri to back off, buddy, let Lando take your place, let him get the points, not you. And that happens a lot, lads, a lot in racing. That's nothing new, nothing strange, not at all. It happens all the time. If Lando Norris got those points instead, he'd have an extra 25 points. Now, at that stage, it still would not have got Lando Norris leading the championship, all right? Because Max still had a great lead. Now, it certainly, of course, would have been eating into Max Verstappen's lead. And let's not forget this, lads. Only a few races ago, there was only, I think it was a 47 point gap between Verstappen and Norris. Only 2 races ago, I think. Right? So he did manage to chew away down under from 75 point lead down to under a 50 point lead. Now imagine if Lando had those extra 25 points. Now we're talking about maybe a 20 point lead Verstappen would have at this stage. Now again, it still doesn't guarantee, and it still would not have put Lando into the championship lead, okay? It wouldn't have. But what it would have done was put tremendous amount of pressure. You think about that, lads. Everything's going peachy, right? Everything's dominant, and bang, they lose momentum. Red Bull, they lose momentum. All of a sudden, this team's coming out of nowhere. It's like a jab that comes out of nowhere, and you're on the ground. You think everything's going perfectly. In fact, you're starting to relax and get comfortable. Then all of a sudden, you've got a 75 point lead, and it gets reduced down to 20, 25 points. You're going to start to get really, really worried at this stage. Okay? Now, you still hang on to that. All right, well, look, lads, at least we've got that one race gap points-wise as a cushion. But I'm telling you, lads, they'd be on the back foot. And the more pressure they could have put on Verstappen, the more chance there could have been a mistake. And they could have also brought Piastri into contention. Okay? They could have had Piastri slow up Verstappen more, right? Or let's say a quote. Now, I'm not saying that they should have done this, but I've seen a lot of this in racing world, lads, where, quote, he had a really bad pit stop, and then magically enough, Oscar Piastri comes out just ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen's about to lap Piastri, but so funny enough, Piastri kind of slows him up for some reason, right? Now, I'm not saying that's wrong, okay? But it does happen in racing. Believe you me, it happens a lot of times in every level. Or he could have, quote, had a accident with Verstappen. That happens a lot too. Now, I'm not saying they should have done that. I'm not saying that at all, lads. I'm not recommending that at all. But it just goes to show you what they didn't do to try and get the goddamn championship. I've never seen a team that have worked so hard to not win the Drivers' Championship. But Red Bull, baby, all you Red Bull fans out there, and like I said, I'm not a Red Bull fan, but, congratulations, Red Bull, and congratulations to all the fans. You must be hyper. You must be so delighted with Red Bull and Verstappen, so congrats, lads. But, they stayed the course. They believed in their people. They fought like a family, like a band of brothers. Every setback, every doubter, every challenge, I think it motivated them, lads. They kept the focus. Verstappen brought food to the table. He delivered the result. Christian Horner brought food to the table. He delivered a result. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. Well, obviously there's a little bit that they had to too. There's a lot of pressure. There's sponsorship, investors. But this is what they're here for. They wanted to win that championship, lads. And that's the difference. That's the power of trust, man. That's the power of really wanting to win. That's why they won. Brotherhood. They're a part of a unit. You got your general, your colonel, your captain, your lieutenant, your private. You've got everything. They have everything in perfect place. So we're going to wrap it up here now today, guys. And I know we haven't even talked about the actual race winner, George Russell. Because to be honest, lads, for me, Vegas was all about the championship. I think most people were focused in on, who's going to win it, right? Will Verstappen take it and all that. But let's quickly shout out to Mercedes. Great result in fairness, a 1-2. Russell wins and Hamilton second. Fantastic. Well done. They've always been thereabouts this year, haven't they? They've been struggling, and then all of a sudden they're there. They get a bit of luck as well. So they've had an up and down year. Kind of like Ferrari too, you know. Ferrari have been up and down as well, but yeah, congrats to Russell and Hamilton in fairness, and to obviously Toto. So let's get back to the main event, Verstappen and Norris, okay? So guys, the resolve here I'm looking at today. Verstappen's the champ again, 4 in a row. Brilliant. But, you know, I think a lot of us can relate to this to some degree if you really pay attention to this and observe it, dissect it. It's so important to have people in our life that have our backs, that will go that extra mile for us. You know, you're in a dark period in your life. Who do you turn to? Can you turn to someone, or do you really find out what they're all about when you really need their help? Maybe you'll expose them for really what they are. But that's also a good thing too, because at least they've shown you your cards. But can you have somebody? Because lads, we all need help in life. We all need a teammate, someone that we can rely on and count on. You know, and a lot of people don't, which is very sad. And Verstappen could rely on Christian Horner and Red Bull. They kept the focus. And you know, it's about never giving up. If you're going to go down with the ship, you go down with the goddamn ship, man. But at least you're going down together. And you can keep your goddamn held head high with that. Loyalty. Band of brotherhood. And I've seen that in my racing years as well. I mean, I'll say to you this one, lads. I've said this before. I've won quite a bit in my life. But when I look back on my life, I don't necessarily think about, the first memory for me is that race win when I won in Spa or wherever it was. You know what I remember first? It was the moment before we just were about to start the engines before a race. The nerves, the adrenaline, the fears kicking in. And your team or your engineer comes down to you and says, okay, mate, let's go. And he gives you the hand signal. And you've got the car turned on. There's dead silence. And he looks down at you and he gives you a wink and shakes your hand. And nothing's said. But everything has been said. Because you know he's got your back. He knows you've got his back. And obviously your parents as well. That's what I remember, the wink, because we were in this together. If we're going to win, we're doing it together. If you're going to go down, you go down together. Call me corny, lads. Call me cringe. I don't know if I am sounding that or not right now, but I mean, it is true. It really, genuinely, it is true. That's what we all need in life. And Zach Brown did not have Lando Norris's back. And again, it doesn't mean that he would have won the championship, all right? I'm not making excuses, lads. It just bloody did not help in a big way. But again, like I said, it wouldn't guaranteed. But Christian Horner, very admirable. All the problems they've had. And yet, he kept the eye on the prize and stuck with his boy. And they end up winning. Enough said for today, lads. Cheers.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move. He's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front with the fifth all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter Walsh.